The ancient science of numerology suggests your birthday isn't just the day you were born, it's a cosmic blueprint for your entire life journey. Today, professional numerologist Novalee Wilder breaks down how understanding the hidden meaning behind your personal numbers can help you navigate relationships, career choices, and even your deepest purpose. Novalee Wilder is a Danish actress and artist turned professional numerologist and published author living in Los Angeles. She's the author of A Little Bit of Numerology and A Little Bit of Angel Numbers, and the host of the Numerology podcast, and founder of the Numerology School. Welcome, Novalee. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so excited.
Thank you. I'm so happy and so honored to be here and excited to talk.
Well, I've never had anyone on the show yet that is a numerologist and to talk about numerology. And I'm fascinated by the topic, and I'm sure my listeners will be as well. So, what I would like for you to talk about first is what your story, like, tell us about Novalee, what drew you to exploring numerology, but also helping others, and just what brought you here.
Mm. So, well, first of all, I didn't start out as Novalee. I guess that is helpful to know since we're talking numerology.
Yeah.
So, I like, and everyone has a story with their name and about their name. Like, I love hearing stories about like why are people named what they are named or who they're named after. And there's just as many like good stories where people are like excited and identify with their name and feel like, oh, this is part of my identity and maybe I'm proud. There can be some lineage or stuff like that. And there's just as many people who are like, I don't like my name. I always have to spell it. Um, maybe I was made fun of. Maybe I'm named after someone that my family doesn't like anymore. There was a falling out. So I have a weird story about my name too, where like my mom had picked a name, then on the way to the church, or like my when I was gonna get like baptized, she came up with a different name, and then the priest who was like writing my name and like he switched the names. So like he was supposed to write like one sequence of names and he just switched them up. And then I didn't know I had multiple names. I thought I just had one first name. Like Christine was my given name with a CH.
I was going to ask if it was with a K because you're
Yeah.
Danish. I didn't know if, okay.
Mm. No, it would have been better with a K. Uh, but then when I was 8 years old, I saw my like birth certificate or something for the first time, and I realized that my first name was actually not Christine. It was Ava. And as any good 8-year-old child goes, like, I don't want my old name. I want this new name. So from that on, like, there was kind of a split where everyone knew I met, and like people in my school, my friends would all call me Ava. My family would call me Christine. And it's funky in your mind over time because there is identity in names, short names, long names. And as Ava grew up, Christine kind of stayed a child or stayed in like that family constellation. And I think at some point in my 20s, I actually told my family, hey, can we all just call me Ava? Like that would be nice. I don't feel like I don't connect with Christine. And they were a little grumbly about it, but okay, yeah, I guess. And then in my late 20s, I went to New York to study acting. And I went through a bunch of like personal shifts, and I really recommend everyone at any point in life that it's really helpful sometimes to leave everything you know behind and get to be whoever you want to be. And as I was like being whoever I wanted to be, I was introduced to numerology and the concept of name change, and I had a really good friend go through a name change, and a bunch of things like just shifted in her life in a way where I was like, wow, this is like magic. Like this is more than I've ever seen for you before. And so I ended up having a session with a numerologist, and it was really something I hope I never do to my clients. I hope I don't scare them. It was like scarily accurate. And she was very like the gloves were off. She was very like, I don't want to call it like brutal, but she was very honest about the impact that was of my name. And it was very like accurate. And so she was like, unfortunately, we can't just change one or two names here or change the spelling or whatever. Like, if you want to change things, you have to change your entire name. And I was like, shit,
Wow.
that's big. But I was also at a point in my life, in general, I'm like a go big or go home kind of person. I'm like, I mean, if you don't really leap, you don't really know. Certain things we can change a little habit, we can get to it over time. Other things you do have to jump in with both feet. So I decided to change my name, my entire name, all of my names, first, middle, last names. And I did so. And the beautiful thing about at the time, I can't do that now because I live in the US like full time. But in the wonderful Danish system, it's all like digital and you like log in,
Easy,
pay some
right?
money and like ripples through all the institutions and banks and your doctor and everything just gets updated. So you literally have that feeling of becoming someone new on
Right.
paper immediately. And that name change, I mean, from a numerologist perspective, I understand why it changed so many things. Like now I understand the energy and I've studied it and I know about numbers and names and identity and the filters that name vibrations can be on who we are and what we're meant to do. I also know some more about like trauma and nervous system work. I understand something about like the personas we sometimes present to other people and how they are tied to things like names. But like so many things changed. Like on a physical level, like aches and pains and certain things. I lost weight, like that was a big thing. Very shortly after I met the man that I'm now married to, and like before then, I had really kind of sworn off love, and I was like, I'm not good with it. It's never going to happen, and it's fine. And like I was never married, like interested in like getting married or anything like this. And like after I kissed him the first time, I was like, damn it, I will have to marry this guy. So like a great love story was also born
Wow.
from this. And like there are many layers and like not all name changes do the same thing because we're not all supposed to do the same thing. But like luck was introduced on a whole new level. Like, I mean, we won the green card lottery, which was wonderful, so we could stay in the US together. I mean, later down the numerology path, like an editor reaching out to me and being like, hey, do you want to write a book about numerology? That's not usually how it goes when
No.
people write
And
books.
right. No,
Um,
it's true.
yeah, and I have like a long list of like luck
Wow.
things like that also. Um,
It's
but
like a
yeah, like I
ripple
mean,
effect almost, right?
yeah,
It's like you
yeah.
change your name and all these things started to come. And I'm sure some of these things you were probably subconsciously manifesting. And then you change your name. And then did you determine to choose this names? Was it through numer I mean, because you could have picked other names that maybe created the same numerical vibration?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Because it's a pretty name.
thank you. So like my numerologist gave me name lists, and that's what I do too. Like I pick the name
Ah,
vibration, but
okay.
there will be hundreds, if not thousands, if more than 10,000 names with like that vibration. So
Right.
um, like one of my middle names are Marlowe, but it has the same vibration as Karen. So I could also have had Karen as a middle
Right.
name. And like me just saying Karen, like we already get like
Yeah,
there's
it's not you.
something about names, and when you look at them and like like there's something very empowering about the process of picking out your own name and pulling on like maybe there's some archetypes or like it's also truly okay. I had this conversation with myself. It's truly okay to just go for the most beautiful thing you can put together.
Mm,
There's also sometimes, like I have clients across the world. Sometimes it's like people go and they are allowed to go fully for, like sounds like a superhero, sounds like a goddess
yeah.
kind of version of things, or like sometimes it's really nice to like honor a heritage and based on like depending on what country you're in, there might be limits to what kind of last names or like combinations of names you can do. Um, Yeah, so I just looked at the names and I knew like I mean I was called Ava, so like I knew I liked something with A in it. So like Nova, Novalee was just kind of perfect for me. And like some people call me Nova and some people call me Novalee. And funnily enough, I've had like a million versions of Christine and Ava where I hated what people turned it into. And with Nova and Novalee, like I don't mind at all. And I also don't mind having to spell it. And I don't mind even when people mispronounce it. So sometimes like some of those when people are when something grates with a name and like it feels like it's not quite fitting, sometimes I say maybe there is something you should know about that vibration and how it impacts you. And maybe there's even um yeah, I can't share the details of that, but like in America, people love to shorten names. Like they
Yeah.
really do. Like
Nicknames or short names or
yeah,
letters only, right? Or
like
initials.
Jennifer will always be Jen or
Jen,
Jenny or something
Jen,
like
right.
that. And like Benjamin will be Ben. And sometimes these like cuter, shorter versions don't actually fit. Like the
Mm,
energy of the shoot of the shorter version, that was the shooter, the short and cute version of the names doesn't fit. And so sometimes, like when I have sessions, it's also just to give people permission to be like, you know what? I like Benjamin. Call me Benjamin instead of
yeah,
Ben.
right.
Like you can sometimes take back the longer name because it actually fits you better.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right, that makes sense. So it's part of what you do is you help people if they need to change their name, help them find the appropriate name. But let's talk a little bit, and you do that also with businesses. It's not just name for names, but you do it for businesses, for anything else that they need an appropriate name for to help them find that vibration within that
Yeah, I
certain name
mean,
that change, right?
babies,
Babies,
children,
yeah.
people, pets. I have helped name pets. Houses at times. I've named some houses. Yeah, like books and records and programs and products. Like the strongest energy will always be your own, which is also why your personal name is going to have the biggest impact.
Yeah.
But if you want to get nitty-gritty, of course, it also impacts like a book, what the title is, or like a record, what the name of that, like
Yeah.
sometimes you can pick like the name of one of the songs and use that as like the record title, but other times there are other like implications and like when like we pick the date that something goes live and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I know that there's a base number you talk about in because there's different types of numerology.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the type that obviously you use. So the importance of a base number, right? There's and benefits behind a person's base number. So can you talk about that from a
Yeah.
like the
So
foundational stuff?
when we look at a birthday, depending on what kind of numerologist we are, we will like zoom in on different numbers. So I'm a Chaldean numerologist, and I'm going to zoom in on the day you were born. Just the day, not the month, not the year, just the day. And I'm going to find the digit sum of that day. So if you're born on the 1st, you're a 1. Lovely, simple. If you're born on the 10th, you're also a 1 because 1 plus 0 is 1. If you're born on the 28th, like me, you're also a 1 because 2 plus 8 is 10 and 1 plus 0 is 1. And that's how we look at the date. So if you have a double digit day, you find the digit sum and you know the base number of this person. Of course, it matters what the sun sign is. And sometimes we get those like wonderful dates where it's like 777 or something like that. Like sometimes we have to look at the repeating numbers in a birthday too. But we always reduce double digits to a digit sum, which means that also when we look at a year, like I'm born in 1986, 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 6, you're going to get 24. And then 2 plus 4 is 6. So my second base number, my first base number is 1 from being born on the 28th. My second base number, or my yearly base number, is from the year I was born in.
Oh, it's from
And
the year. So you have
yeah,
a first base number and then the second base number. Okay.
yes.
Got it.
And these two base numbers, if people are familiar with astrology, you can think about it kind of like as like your sun and rising, like your big and like a year, we would treat your sun sign as part of your big three like that, but I would rank them first base number, second base number, and then sun sign if
Okay.
I was looking at it like that.
Okay.
And these numbers are dancing in your life. They are creating a rhythm, they're creating an impact, they are an imprint on your personality, or you could also say like they are the doors you have decided to walk through as a soul in this lifetime and be colored by and imprinted by and affected by. The most important one is your first base number, so the day you were born,
Mhm.
which is like a side note when like Americans write the month
Yeah.
first. I always find that like interesting somehow. Like why would you start with the month? Because the day is the most important. Um, so the days like where we have the life goals and life lessons and we have the challenges and gifts, and each base number is kind of needed. I see this sometimes where people find their base number and they get disappointed. They're like, oh, but I don't want to be a 2, or like it sounds like 7s are weak, or it sounds like if I'm 8, I'm an 8, I'm just doomed because it's like karmic. And I'm more seeing it like if you look like a palette of colors, you couldn't just remove the red because, like, oh, red is a lot. Like, some of us are here to be a lot. You also couldn't just be like, well, white is boring. Like, it's not really even a color. And I'm like, sometimes we need something that is not everything else. Sometimes we need something that is in between, something that can connect other colors, or water them down just a little bit. These are some of the images I use in my sessions as well. So looking at your base number is going to tell us something about who you want to be as a soul in this lifetime. Looking at your second base number is going to tell us something about your inner experience and also where you run to if you kind of get thwarted in your first base number. So if any of us are wounded sufficiently, we will retreat into our second base number and live from that a little bit more. And we might feel a little bit safer and a little less, like it's interesting, like we will feel less threatening to others, and that will make us feel a little bit safer. But it's not really where the gold is. It's not really where the growth is. It's more supposed to be like a supporting character in this little dance between the numbers. So, and often when I talk to people, I can tell they feel more seen in their second base number. And then I know we have to have that conversation about like there might be some trauma around their first base number. For example, um, most people don't really get offended or hurt by words that don't hit home. If I said to you, Rose, oh, you're so wishy-washy, you never make a decision, you'd be a little like, well, and that's not really true. So I mean, you must not be talking about me. But if I said, well, Rose, sometimes you come off a little strong, I might use words that like bossy, or someone might have said like micromanaging, or like, like
Controlling.
controlling. They might have used some of those words. And you would go, well, I don't like hearing it, but maybe on some level I understand that like it's who I can be, or it's what I can be judged for. So some of those, like I see every number as a spectrum. So like in the low end of like the 9 spectrum for you, because you're a 9, we should add that because you're born on the 27th. And it's the same for me as a 1, because we have leadership qualities in these two numbers. Like you're gonna find that micromanaging, slightly manipulating, because like we have to do it this way. Like I know it's the best
It's
way
the
and I
best way.
will make you do it. Like it's better for you.
Right.
Yeah, like, we're going to talk about the low end of the leadership spectrum
Yeah.
where no one likes to be, and we've all had a boss or someone in our life who's tried to do that. And sometimes it also helps as someone, like when you understand your own spectrum, you can go, wow, I'm really trying to like come up with ways to get this person to do something that they really don't seem to want to do. Or like I'm feeling a little powerless in certain areas of my life. So I'm trying to exert power in some other areas to kind of like gain back some territory, or like, yeah, self-sufficiency. Like, okay, maybe there's a different way.
Right.
I can also, like, I use this, all of the leadership numbers can kind of be reduced to critics, like the lowest end of any leader. is like the critic, where like we don't do, we just critique. We
Right.
start replying to emails and going, you know what, there was actually a misspelling in this one, or your link didn't work. And like we start like telling other, like we're like, you're not doing it right. Like you're supposed to be this leading thing, authority, whatever, you're not doing it right. And that can come some like if you squeeze a leader enough, sometimes the critic will come out, or like the what I call the proofreader. And some people spend their entire lives in the lower end of the spectrum. This is
I
not
was
to like talk down on people, but sometimes we also need an invitation to become bigger and to like realize we have more influence and that we don't have to manipulate our way to doing it. This got very dark, but I'm just it was just too like
No, it makes a lot of it makes a lot of sense. And being aware of how you are as a person and then understanding your numerology, you can make changes. So you're not always stuck in that nine. Or and I have to tell you, my second base is a one. So I've
oh
got a
yeah,
lot.
there is no way to run.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm hearing you. I'm
Um,
like, oh my gosh, what is wrong
well, it's
with me?
wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful. I think it's also really interesting. I love having sessions with people who have especially women who have a lot of these leadership numbers, because it means that no matter what, no matter how much work you do, there is also that like gender issue where it's just like you have to figure out what leadership looks like to you, and you have to make it almost like a female word, because to a lot of people when I say leader, they go, I can't be that. Kind of like when I say that that game or whatever it is, like imagine a doctor, and then like they put up a scenario, and then they say, do you realize that in your head the doctor was always male and the nurse was always female, even though in the real scenario the doctor was female and the nurse was male? Like there's something where like even the image of being in leadership or being an authority or having impact or having power or having to have people
Vision.
follow your lead, it's like
Yeah.
there's something like shame and guilt tied to it for women. There is something that kind of gets like galvanized when we have two leadership numbers, or if people have the same number is as their first and second base number.
Right.
So
Okay.
like if I have a session with someone who's a double two, and two is like connected to the moon and Cancer and dreaming, fun, like they have life lessons about having fun, like it's literally on the menu. And when I talk about being sensitive and creative to them, sometimes they're like, I don't see any of that as like a weakness. And I'm like, no, I know. But to a lot of people who had like a stronger first base number and a gentler or weaker, whatever you want to call it, second base number, they would have a strong feeling of one of them being more powerful and one of them being more like soft. One
Mm.
could also say like expansive and kind of like imploding a little bit, like moving inwards. So like when you have 9 and 1, there is like you run into another leader when
Yeah.
you get challenged. And it might also be, I would say, like even a simpler leader that kind of drills things down to the essence. Because 9 might be a little also tied into some of the spiritual aspects or some of like the higher visions for what leadership should be. And then if you get pushed into the 1, it's like, well, what needs to be done?
Yeah.
Like, what do we need? Okay. You know what I hear by the vision? Like, okay,
Yeah.
fine. Here's
Let's get this
today's
thing
to-do
done.
list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
so your book, I know you have your book is a little bit of numerology, and we were talking about this, and what I love about this is it really is compact. It's filled with information, so someone can look up their base number and come in here and learn about themselves, really, and you get into some detail about their base number, which is nice, and it's not in a very complicated form. It's a simplistic.
I try
So it's
to
a good
make it very
start.
simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
really great start. So calculating your base number, finding that, and then determining your second base, and then you have it in this book. And then you also were talking about the month is the sun sign, right?
Yeah.
And you say
And
that number one is Leo. How do you do, how does that work? Because I'm thinking, okay, well, typically with an astrology is Aries is the number one sign. So how is Leo one?
yeah, so some of the numbers, because there are more sun signs than numbers, so some of them are going to share. This also leads back to like numerology is an old spiritual science. So like Chaldean numerology is at least 3,000 years old. Um, Probably more, but
Yeah,
we
they're
just
all
kind of
old,
like,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
And so there's like an overlap with Indian numerology. And at that point in time, they were using and looking at sun signs and like the planets as like there would be a good version and a bad version. I think in astrology, it's like a malefic or something like that.
Oh yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
for example, 1 and 4 shared the sun as a planet, where 1 was the good and 4 was the bad.
Ah, I see. Okay,
And then later, when they got like, when they realized, oh, there are more planets, they were like, oh, let's let's
let's
fit them
change it.
in. So some like 1 is Leo and 2 is Cancer, and like um we could like sometimes I also think about them like you can find them all in the book. You could also think about them as like the elements. They also all tie into an element. And
Hmm.
so all of the like
Well, the signs are like Leo's fire, Cancer's
yeah,
water. Is that
yeah,
your favorite? Yeah,
yeah.
right.
And I would also say that like you will probably find for most people I do sessions with, there is often some form of overlap in like their big three and their base numbers. So for example, for me, I'm a 1 and I'm also a Leo. So that's like double up on that. And then I'm like my second base number is 6 and my rising sign is Cancer. And 2 and 6 kind of share that water element. So like from a numerology astrology perspective, like my two charts say the same thing.
Oh wow, that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah. And like that, I have yet to meet someone, I'm not saying they don't exist, of course they do, where there isn't some kind of overlap, which is also one of the things I like about like all of these old systems, is that like we're looking at the same terrain, but with different maps.
Yeah.
So they should agree on some things. And I've had like, because I'm so curious, I've had sessions with other numerologists or other numerology systems. I think, I don't remember what this is called. Oh, soul code or something like that, where it was very clear that the core source of their understanding of numbers were the same. They were just using it slightly differently. So like if you looked at my numerology chart, you're going to see a lot of 1 energy because also of the Leo and everything. And I'm like, cool. And they were like, no, we don't see 1, we see 9, but we connect 9 to Leo. And I was like, okay, so we agree. You're using a different number, but you're basically seeing the same energy.
Right.
So like I mean, I find that with this is my test for whenever I meet a new system. Is it like, can I see the same terrain underneath the
Right.
map?
Numerology also you can also identify the dynamics in your own household, right? By knowing
Mm,
the base numbers of the people you're
yeah.
married to, your children, your siblings, people you work with. So having if you get to know their birthdays, right? You can say, okay, well, they're an 8 and this is the way they operate, so I can approach them in this way. Does that work as well? That
Yeah,
way?
and I love doing that because I know that like if you understand the spectrum of a base number, you can invite them higher. And I
Right.
feel like I mean, we all want to invite it higher in our own spectrum. We all want to be seen. It's not to be seen for like a fake potential, but it's just like one step up the ladder. So it's like, how do we phrase a question? How do we frame a request if we need someone to do something? Like if I have to ask a leadership number to do something, I would do that differently than one of our connectors or one of our nurturers or like, because I also know that like if you're dealing with authority, you have to respect that authority.
Right.
Sometimes people have found themselves in places where I'm like, you have absolutely no authority here, but you're acting like you have some. So maybe you're a leadership member who has found themselves like on the wrong shelf. And if I acknowledge the authority I see in you, I'm going to get better service from
Yeah.
you, or I'm going to get like a better interaction because you're going to feel more seen. And this is not manipulation. This is just speaking to what is underneath what it might appear to be sometimes, like
Right.
when people have a job that we think you could do more than this. And I'm going to just talk to the part of you that could do more.
Wow.
and
Yeah, no,
also like
you're not
generous.
manipulating them. Like you said, you're
No,
not, um, you're just creating a better environment to collaborate. So,
yeah.
just as an exercise, just if I can go through this because we've been talking so much, and I know people out there are like, oh my gosh, this numerology stuff. But
Mm.
if we can just go through each number just till nine, and just give me one, can you give me one word that identifies each one?
Oh God.
That possible?
I can try.
Okay. Okay. So a one.
Two words. It has to
Okay.
be
Two words.
um cheerleader.
Okay. Cheerleader.
Yeah.
Two.
Um, I think I would say like sensitive heart.
Okay. Yeah, you said sensitive before for a two.
Yeah.
Okay. Three,
Ambition.
four,
Rebel.
five,
Um, I mean, I would say friend. I think that they might not feel so seen by that. Like connector.
okay. Six,
Um, the lover or the artist, I would
hmm,
say.
seven.
Um, oh, we're gonna get fancy. It's like say like the channel from heaven.
Oh, I like that. That's seven. Okay. Eight.
I would like to say it's not black and white
Okay.
because they think things are black and white
Ah, okay.
at times.
And the nine.
I mean, because it's the end of the line. So
Mm.
there's some like I mean, we could say that the final challenge or the final gift.
No, it's nice.
I don't
Uh,
know if these were so helpful, but if we
no,
had
it's
to
not.
boil them down, yeah.
It's a good start. I just wanted to make people curious. I know they're probably calculating in their heads now, okay, what's my base
Yeah, yeah,
number? What
yeah.
does it mean? Um, but everyone should buy Novalee's book anyway. So that gives you a good starting point to learn numerology. But I'd like to transition a little bit into also angel numbers. I know people talk about angel numbers, and you have a book about that as well. Can you talk about angel numbers then, and how you
Yeah.
came about writing the book, and just a little bit of energy around that?
Yeah. So I first have to say that a little bit of angel numbers is a slightly different angel number book simply because it's based on the Chaldean system, which means that if you read a little bit of numerology or you read some Chaldean numerology books and then you read a little bit of angel numbers, you're going to go, ah, I see what you did there. Um, because I see that a lot of other angel numbers, and there are lots of great ones, are a little more channeled, which
Right.
has its own merit. But I felt like part of my work of doing those a little bit of books is also like, how can you become your own expert a little bit? And how can you understand the system to a level where you can apply the system, even though you can't read a little bit of numerology and I would say call yourself a professional numerologist.
Right.
You need a little
Just
bit more than that.
right.
But I want you to be able to apply it really fast. And that usually means here's the system. So I wrote a little bit of angel numbers because I was buried in requests. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining, but I'm just like, people were like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Do you want to do an article series? Do you want to do a 10-part article series? Do you want a second 10-part article series about angel numbers? And I was like, wow. And this was like in 2022, 2023, and there was like a real resurgence in like the mainstream of angel numbers, and people were writing articles about seeing 1111 and what does it
Right.
mean, and like, yeah, a whole thing about like
I think angels in general too. There's a lot of
yeah,
discussion and curiosity about the
yeah.
angels.
But there's also a general like spirituality is always going mainstream, I guess, but like people were getting angel number tattoos. They're probably still getting angel number tattoos. And I was like, this is definitely like reaching a level where, you know, I have something to say about it. So with that one, I reached out to my editor and was like, hey, angel numbers, would that be like a good next book to write? And she was like, yes, let's do it. So that's why I wrote it. And I also wrote it like you can find the first 1,000 angel numbers and you can find your repeating numbers. But I also really wanted to write a little bit about like how to go deeper with this. Like from a more spiritual perspective, I find angel numbers to be like a gateway drug. It's often angel, like seeing numbers is often something people do when they're in some kind of transition or when they have that first like touch point with something talking back to them
Mm.
and not just them maybe having a little meditation practice or maybe doing a little prayer here and there, but like have this feeling of like, ooh, I think I'm getting messages. I think something is trying to talk to me, or I keep seeing this thing over and over again, or it could be a lucky number. You could see it on license plates. It could be like your birthday or someone significant's birthday. There could be a lot of like implications, and people usually feel very like, oh, something is happening. This is exciting. And then at some point they go, I don't know what to do with it. And that's why you should pick up a little bit of angel numbers. That's what you should do. And then you should not just understand the system, but also understand a little bit about like how the angels operate and how like subtle some of this information and messaging is. And like subtlety is a lost art in general. And I do think that while social media is doing much good, I also think it's dulling our senses to a certain degree. And I mean, I also study neuroscience, so there are like certain things in our body that are just not used to the amount of information and impact and images. We kind of like fill our cup with some of those
It, it's
things, and
it's too
and
much
there's
though.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's less space for God or the angels or just yourself. Because I feel like some of this is also like creating space for an understanding, like things like angel numbers is like creating space for the conversation you are basically always having with your higher self in some way.
And when we see these numbers and their repeated patterns, sometimes it's nice just to pause and maybe even think about like what you were thinking or what you were
Mm,
doing, or even write it down and say this is what I
yeah,
saw, and see if there's like a pattern and try to interpret that pattern. But it is definitely a connection to angels. There's
yeah,
that energy that they're saying, hey, this is some kind of message, like you
mm.
said.
Yeah. And also, I mean, there are general messages. That's why I wrote the book. You can find your general message and you can find your personal angel number. Um, Over time, I also feel like you keep asking this question, how would you answer it? Like sometimes people are like, oh, I keep seeing this. What does it mean? And sometimes I say, what do you think it means?
Right.
What did you think it meant when you saw it Thursday? Or like, you can make I've seen it all these times. Okay. Any of these times have something like sometimes I'm like, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it's
No,
it's not just but be like a spiritual exploration is also becoming your own teacher a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah. So I mean, I connect with angels, so I have conversations with them, right? So, and I may have repeated the same conversations with them, asking them
Yeah.
for, can you just give me some guidance or help? And they'll show me, and it could be in numbers, and it could be in a repeated pattern in numbers, and then I'll be like, okay, what does that mean? Or whatever. So having that conversation and not just waiting for these answers and thinking they're random. They may not be random. You may already be having these conversations in your head with these angels and not realizing it, but have the conversations with them and have them show you what these numbers are or signs or whatever. Just like you said, you could see a license plate or a house number or somebody's birthday show up when you're thinking about them. I know I like for me, my birthday, every time I look at my watch, my birthday will pop up. And I always think, well, that's my mom telling me
Mm.
she's around. That's, because she's passed. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's, 127. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, that's her. And it was something I associate with her. So now I feel that's comforting every time I see that. Right.
Yeah. And that's also, I mean, sometimes people are looking for really big answers, and sometimes the answer is just comfort.
Right.
Like sometimes the answer is just like, you're good. You're good. You're
Yeah.
doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You're all
That's
right. And I'm here.
great.
I mean, which is also like mostly why people turn to spiritual things. Like, am I alone? No.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Yes. Are you really sure? Yeah. We're like, okay. Yeah.
I love that. Are there ways we can integrate numerology into our lives that we haven't talked about?
I mean, understanding people and what they're here to do, that's really helpful. Also, sometimes understanding if you go deeper into it, like certain name vibrations, I liken them to like filters. We all understand filters in this day and age of Instagram. We understand that sometimes you put a filter on things and it looks very different than when you didn't have the filter on. And that's the thing with name vibrations, understanding, you can understand your family better. Like when I changed my last name and no longer carried my dad's last name, I actually understood him better by not carrying the same filter as him. I'm sure he has maybe issues with it. Who knows? Like, what are we going to do? But like, I understood my dad so much better. And I also look at my sisters, knowing their base numbers and their name vibrations and the people they married, which means like the energy they invited in and the energy they then had like children with, and like how those children interact and how there is all like some energies playing out, and there are ways we can understand each other and there are ways we can never understand each other, so we don't have to try. Like there's also sometimes like not a giving up, but just an acceptance of like, ooh, this is who you are. And I might talk a certain way and explain myself a certain way, but through your filter, these words will always be turned into something slightly different. Like some people are marinators, what I call it, where like you put something into them, like you talk to them about something, whatever, and they go and then marinate. And what
Yeah.
comes out of the marinate is sometimes something where you're like, I don't really think that's what I said or how I meant it, but that's how you're taking it. And like I have to sometimes know that that what comes out of the marinade of some people is like their whole brand of like brilliant and crazy. And that's what they're here to do. So like understanding people, interacting with them. I mean, I use it to vet people. Like that's not like I never want to be one of those persons who's like, I can't work with a Scorpio or something like that. But I definitely know that with certain things, I'm like, there are certain people who are like, I would hire you in a heartbeat to do whatever I needed to do. And there are others where I'm like, I would have some reservations about certain things, or I would know that I would need certain things in place. And I mean, I've also ignored certain things. So, like, I've had roommates when I knew some of this stuff where I was like, oh, it's fine. It wasn't fine. It was in their
Mhm.
numeroscope. And I was like, oh, and that's the thing that like people are multifaceted. And of course, they're more than their numbers. But sometimes you can look at someone's birthday and their name and deduce some things about their behavior, or if they're trustworthy, or if they're good at putting other needs ahead of their own. And you can decide some things. If I'm launching things, if I have to do a podcast, then we are doing this on the 23rd, which is a 5 day, which is great for connection and communication and open channels and conversations that branches off into different aspects. Or like the internet for me works better on 5 days. So I'm like picking those if I can.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay. That's
yeah,
good to
so
know.
yeah, things like that too.
Okay. Yeah. And also what you understand from a personal perspective where your weaknesses are or imbalances are, then
Mm.
you can just create more balance.
Understanding as a natural authority, I know that people who have issues with authority will have issues with me.
Mm, okay.
In other words, this is very Leo, but like haters are
Yeah.
gonna hate. So like I'm like, oh, I mean that's a natural thing. If I'm in the room, people might turn to me, even if someone else is technically leading. And that can be frustrating for whoever is technically in charge. And this is not me being like, oh, I can't help it, but I like, this is just human nature
Mm.
that like people will turn, like, who looks like they know what they're doing. And sometimes if people are like, oh, you always look like you know what you're doing. And I'm like, no one is paying me to look lost. If you want to pay me to look lost, I will totally look lost. Like, but nobody is paying me to do that right now. So I'm going to show up as I show up.
Yeah. And
Um,
you're an actress, and that Leo it fits
yeah,
with that
yeah,
actress
yeah,
too, right?
yeah. It fits with that too. Yeah, but that's also like sometimes it's just like it is what it is, like we don't have to make excuses. Lean
Yeah,
into it. Yeah.
I love that. You offer free resources on your site. I know you have
Yeah.
calculators, right? So name calculators, or uh, so that
Yes.
people can find that. What other things that do you offer that you can help people with if you want to share that?
So I offer a bunch of free resources. So like we have this wonderful interview right now. I have a bunch of other interviews also on YouTube with different like wonderful people who've been kind enough to invite me on their podcast. And I've done a bunch of articles and I have a blog. I feel like sometimes people are like a blog that's so old and I'm like, back in the day, not so long ago.
I know, right?
I have a series on name changes and what you can expect if you go through them, even if you don't go through them with a numerologist. And house numbers. We haven't talked about that so much, but like what each house number means, and depending on what base number you have, like that house number might feel different. I have the calculator, so you can pop any name into the calculator, and then you can find like a really short description of it. You can find a longer description of each name vibration and a little bit of
Hmm.
numerology. But I use that calculator too because you should double check your math. If you're a numerologist, you should double check your math. Um, and then I have, of course, paid sessions. So I have short recordings if you just want to like dip in your toes. I have full 1 hour, 2 hour sessions, reading your numeroscope, reading your yearly cycles, which are kind of like your transits in astrology. Like we can look at you through time. And then I offer name changes for both grown-ups and babies. I feel very, very privileged every time someone reaches out and is like, I'm pregnant and I want a harmonious, supportive name for my child. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Oh,
Uh,
I have been chosen. So I help with naming babies too. Or like we talked about, like you can use some of my sessions too if you want to look at like naming your book or your product or like launching it and different options for it. Numerology is not here to like brand you wrong or lost or like yeah, just like defective. But there are definitely name vibrations that can help us, like a filter that not just make us look better, but feel better. And there are filters and name vibrations that can make us focus on specific things about ourselves or about other people that are not so helpful.
right.
So, like,
Good.
they kind of call in certain experiences. And for some base numbers, some name vibrations are more challenging. Like, you're a nine, and you can carry a lot of nine energy just because you are nine. Where certain name vibrations like twos, which would be lovely for a two, would be a little like, whoa, I'm very sensitive about certain things, other people's opinions. Whoa, I really care. And I would say, well, when you're a leadership number, sure, you should take into account what other people need, but you cannot spend your time inside of them feeling
Mm,
what they feel
right.
without getting a little off track of that leadership course.
Wow.
So like sometimes also understanding like it's not just changing names, it's also understanding like we can't lose the knowledge and wisdom and experience we have gotten from carrying whatever names we've carried. But sometimes we can integrate it a little bit better once we're out of it. Like how we all know, like getting out of a situation means that you can sometimes appreciate it and go like, okay, what did I learn? It was horrible, but what did I learn?
Right.
Yeah,
There's lessons in everything.
yeah, always.
Yeah. Well, I wish I had talked to you before I named my podcast, although I love the name of the podcast. It's like, I always struggle. I
It's lovely.
struggle. It's with naming things and stuff, but we'll see. Well, it works for now. Who knows?
Well, also, I mean, your energy is the most important. And like, I mean, Rose is a 17/8 name vibration, which is attention, fame, spotlight, like
There you
something
go.
is being pulled. So, you are pulling, like it has a name and it has impact, but you are the one wielding the tool. So like your energy is also pulling the energy
Well,
in.
that's good to know. That makes me feel better. Thank you.
Well, that's also like sometimes people are like, oh, am I just doomed? I'm like, easy, easy. No, no, no. Like it's all working.
Yes, so this has been wonderful conversation. I thank you so much for being here today. It's been such a
My pleasure.
I loved listening to you talk about numerology. And I encourage everyone to look for Novalee, buy her books. They're really great books. I'll have them in the show notes. I'll have them on my website. And yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.